One, two, three, four!
Greetings, this is Tom with Buncombe Shinola. Welcome to our series, Humming a Sickening Tune, where we shall be reviewing every single Ramones song in order alphabetically. Today, we will be looking at Baby I Love You from End of the Century. Once the Ramones agreed to an album-length project with legendary 60s producer Phil Spector, testing the alchemy of their predominantly divergent pedigrees, several questions presented themselves. 1. Would the band, who was on a hot streak of cover versions of classic pre-British Invasion 60s material, pick one of the producer's hits for rearrangement? Apparently, the band considered many options, including the perhaps more thematically appropriate He Hit Me and It Felt Like a Kiss. But they eventually settled on Baby I Love You, the Ronettes' follow-up to their biggest hit, Be My Baby, which featured the vocals of Phil's then semi-captive spouse, Ronnie Spector. And 2, just how far would Spector take his penchant for massive over-orchestrations while helming the board for an aggressive punk band? From the Beatles to Dion DiMucci to Leonard Cohen to Ike and Tina Turner, the record showed that no matter who the artist, Spectorisms were unlikely to be contained. And there was a third question: would these high-concept strategies pay off? But in the end, this would be chalked up as yet another 70s failure for the producer, attempting to adjust his techniques and ingratiate himself back into the modern audience. Ironically, what added up as a disappointment for Spector leveled off to a better-than-usual showing in the charts for the Ramones, although they were clearly stung to have yet again not made significant inroads into mainstream success. One long-term dividend of the collaboration was the attention Phil paid towards improvement of Joey's vocal technique. He later recalled being coached for hours with the producer at the piano, stepping out time with his foot. An early drawback to Joey's quirky vocal technique was his occasional tendency to rush phrases with too many words, instead of eliciting certain syllables, greater emphasis and pause. A perfect example from this era would be the song Rock and Roll High School itself. The original version from the movie soundtrack, also minimally mixed and produced by Phil Spector, shows Joey rushing Rock and Roll High School, where the version on End of the Century, Joey emphasizes more meaningfully Rock and Roll High School, adding yet another distinctive hook to one of the band's strongest tracks. And the hard work paid off as the singer delivers an impassioned performance, exceeding even the unexpected triumphs of the band's earlier ballad work. The drawback to this attention was that the remainder of the band began to jealously feel like sidemen on a Joey Ramone solo project, an uncomfortable vibe which would present itself even more deeply on the weakest tracks for the follow-up Pleasant Dreams. The question of exactly how many of the Ramones play on each track of End of the Century has long been a matter of debate. Certainly, the more relaxed, expressive drum track is not entirely outside the wheelhouse of journeyman Markey, but you have to ask the question, if Phil is going to bring an entire orchestra and the usual members of the Wrecking Crew along, why not bring Hal Blaine or someone to handle percussion? Likewise, as far as difficulty, the bass line would not be inconceivable for Dee, but it just somehow does not feel quite like his normal approach. He later notably claimed to have not played on the record at all, although his late life book authorship has become rather notorious for its less than truthful reliability. And of course, Johnny, exasperated by Spector's perfectionism, pointedly noted that his talents were of little use on a track like this. And with the sessions beginning on the 1st of the month and Johnny's father unexpectedly dying less than a week later, an open obligation opportunity to depart from these sessions presented itself, and so his absence is the most probable of all of them. So how far exactly did Spector take this song's sound? The extremely un-rock and roll key of the original's E-flat is shifted to accommodate Joey to an equally unusual A-flat, a very un-Ramones logistical pitch. There is even a promotional lip-sync television appearance where the band determinedly strums along to their more familiar key of A, while Joey and all of the session orchestration musicians carry on in the true key. Interestingly, the bright 1/4/5 chorus intro of the Ronettes version is also abandoned in favor of a dive straight into the minor-tinged verse change. And Spector wastes no time immediately blanketing the proceedings with over-orchestrations, jeering the melody line to an extremity which not only eclipses the charm of the original, but literally teeters past the suggestion of self-parody? An extended, bombastic instrumental interlude was also included, stretching the track out, even with the omitted intro, to nearly 4 minutes in length. Uncharted territory for the band, and the longest track End of the Century had to offer. Almost. And for a band whose core concepts include meaningfully stripped-down purity and a self-contained, do-it-yourself ethic of construction, it is tempting to cut to the chase and simply dismiss Baby I Love You as the single most wrong-headed experiment of their entire career. But finally, it is this chutzpah which the producer wields in crystallizing the most obnoxious extreme of his trademark's handiwork, and its uneasy marriage to the heart-filled, desperate sincerity and love which comes through Joey's dedication, which finally rescues the track, barely, from the absolute rock-bottom spot amongst the Ramones' most lamentable offerings. What do I like least about this song? Well, at a certain point, the Ramones' confidence was so shaken that instead of playing to their strengths, they would attempt to curry a hit single by stretching outside the boundaries of their sound uncomfortably. Despite grade A classics such as I Want to Be Sedated, Psychotherapy, and even I Don't Want to Grow Up proving their legs over a long stretch, the band continued to place their trust in the non-representative fare of Don't Come Close, Howling at the Moon, and We Want the Airwaves. And Baby I Love You surely represents the most desperate Hail Mary of all. The fact that it's scored moderately significant traction, especially in England, was a serious sticking point to Johnny, who often referred to it as the biggest embarrassment of his career. An appearance on Top of the Pops has previously been touched upon, but on tour in England, the band mustered a handful of attempts to promote the song live. They were long rumored to have had the offstage support of one of the band members of the Boys playing keyboard from offstage, although the inner touring circle, no less than Vera Ramone and the roadies, insist that this did not happen, despite some recorded evidence. I suppose it's possible that this guy edited himself overdubbing onto a live recording, but it seems bizarre that someone would choose to insert themselves into one of the least regarded moments of Ramones history. Anyway, let's just leave it at this. If you need any proof that there is no fucking justice in the world whatsoever, look no further than the fact that by any basic arithmetic, Baby I Love You is probably the Ramones' all-time biggest hit. And what do I like best about this song? Well, surely the sweetest outcome of the Baby I Love You debacle is that it birthed a long-term supportive appreciation society between the Ramones and Ronnie Spector. Even after several decades, it was not until Spector's violent proclivities finally brought him to prison and eventually death that the ties controlling Ronnie were definitively severed. Along the way, Joey wrote songs for and recorded with Ronnie, and they made a point performing live together often, well past the Ramones breakup and all the way until the band members' deaths. And on a personal note, I'd offer that in winter 2019, me and my sweetheart Peg caught a winter performance by Ronnie Spector, and she was majestic. Every inch, rock and roll royalty. And at one point in the show, she made a point to offer gratitude to the members of the New York scene who had offered support. One of whom was clearly Joey, and she offered, "You can't put your arms around a memory to those who are no longer around." And the power of this legend paying tribute to the scrappy rock and rollers that I like to call heroes is a treasure that I will carry around with me for the remainder of my days. Hey, this is Tom with Buncombe Shinola. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my playing. I was hoping to avoid copyright strikes, but I will put links to the Ramones version and the Ronettes version in the description below. In the comments, please let me know what you think of Baby I Love You. I know this is a controversial one for sure. Coming up next on Humming a Sickening Tune, we'll be doing Babysitter.